Welcome back, everybody. It is the last time I recorded a video for this course was September 19th. You can see that right here. Might have been September 27th. We have a September 27th date there. But actually it shows right here, September 27th. It is now December 9th. It's December 9th. So the semester got really busy for me, and we're remodeling portions of our house. And then I have family, and that all took time. But here I am, I'm back, I'm dedicated. It's now finals week, so I have some more time. And we're gonna keep moving forward with this course. There's definitely some great stuff in here. And that's like the main thing I wanna convey to you, is this valuable information which can change your life if you know this information. So it's really important from my perspective to learn this information. And if you learn it, it will change your life. It will change your life. It changed my life. So we've done all of this material right here, and I'm just gonna zoom in on that a little bit so that you can see it. Getting started, principles of success, navigating college with confidence, and then time management and productivity, ironically, is where we were when this big hiatus occurred. That's kind of a cool word, hiatus. If you've never heard that word before, hiatus defined. And I like bringing everybody along, so you can pause the video and you could read this right here. But that's when this hiatus occurred, is we're right here in this time management productivity section, and we did avoiding procrastination. And in this video, we're gonna talk about building daily success routines, habits that drive achievement. And so we're gonna see all of this information here, and there's some good stuff to learn. And again, you could pause the video right here and you could read through all that material right there just to get a preview of everything we're gonna do. Because the more you expose yourself to the material, the more you roll around in it, the more time you spend with it, and the different ways that you learn about it, if you engage different learning modalities, that's gonna help you learn this material more effectively. So reading it is one way to expose your mind to it, engages certain neural pathways, and then hearing me talk about it is another way to learn about it, and that engages yet other neural pathways. And when you do that, more exposures, different neural pathways, you're really reinforcing your learning, so you're learning more quickly and more effectively. You're going to remember it for longer, and it's going to be more a part of your life. So you can pause the video and read through that right there, and you can pause the video and read through that right there. And you could pause the video and read through that right there. And then you could also pause the video and read through this right here. And then finally, you could pause the video and read through that right there. And so the main takeaway from this video here is you want to build daily success routines, habits that drive achievement. And I just want to give you some examples of that from my life. And so in my life, I guide my life based upon the four factors, the four principles of health, the four areas of health. So physical health, financial health, I think of the mental, emotional, mind, intellectual, all of that is just this area up here, the mind. So physical, financial, mental, and then also social. Those are the four areas of health you really want to maintain in your life. And I think about structuring my life to keep those in balance. And this is critically important. I probably have mentioned this earlier in the course. It's actually been so long since I've recorded these videos, I don't remember, vaguely remember, but I've watched people die. I've literally watched people die. I knew this guy, Aaron, saw him at Whole Foods. I think I told you that story. And a couple weeks later, he was dead, and he just didn't keep his health on point, his physical health. And so, and that's just one example. I know a college professor who had physical problems, then started taking pharmaceuticals from his doctor by prescription, and then he had some pain, so they gave him some opiates, and then they ended his prescription, so he started buying it off the street, and now he's OD'd 2 times. He's no longer a professor at the college, and there are all of these stories of people who just did not make the choices necessary to keep their lives running well. And so for me, focusing on those four areas of health is this high-level framework that really allows me to structure my day and my time so that, I could keep those four areas of health in check and keep them well balanced and keep my life going well and keep it healthy and keep it enjoyable. And sometimes you have to do things that have a long-term payoff, even if in the short term, you're kind of like, I'd rather sit on the couch and watch TV. But you have to make those choices like, hey, this is the kind of life I want to build, and you just do it. And this is why people sometimes like doing cold plunges, okay? So a little bit of a tangent here, but totally related. It can sound a little bit tangential, but hear me out. Like when you do a cold plunge, and I do them sometimes, it's like you have to force yourself to do something you don't want to do, right? Like I don't want to jump in that cold pool, and like everything in my body is saying, don't jump in that cold pool, except there's this executive function override where I could choose to do something that some of my other systems are saying, hey, I don't want to do that right now. Like I am the captain, I am the pilot, I am the CEO, I make the decisions, and when I say go, we go. And so that's one of the things, just like as a practice practicing that skill, building that skill, like whether it's jumping in a cold pool, like, hey, don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it, right? I'm making that decision. And there's health benefits to cold plunges that people talk about. But mostly for me, it's just really exercising that ability in the mind to do this thing, to make a decision and do it. And you could apply that skill, that strength, that ability to areas like, hey, I'd rather sit on the couch, though it's getting close to swim time, I'm going to go swim, right? I'm going to go do it. Even though I'd rather stay on the couch, I'm going to go swim because I know that's the kind of life I want to build. And by making those choices, you could start to structure a life, a routine that, you know, is bountiful, is beautiful, that is the kind of life you could be happy and proud of, where you have great physical health, great financial health, great mental, intellectual, emotional health, great social health. And so that framework, that high-level framework, is kind of my starting point for structuring success routines in my life. Like, what kind of a life do I want to build? I want to build a life where I'm happy, where I have all of those things, happy and healthy, where I have all those things on point. And so you can think about those different areas and think about, what do I need to do to increase my game in each of those areas, to increase my health, my happiness in each of those areas? What do I need to do? And you could start structuring your days, your weeks, your months to accomplish and achieve progress and advancement in those 4 areas. And the great thing about life is that you can advance. I have advanced so much, and I come from a family where personal growth has been like a value that has been consciously embraced. In my family, my father is a sociologist. I grew up in the human potential movement. So embracing personal growth and knowing that change is possible. I've come so far in my life, and my dad came so far in his life. My mom, she's done a good job too, but she started out in a good space and she grew and she's in a better space, you know, but she didn't have as much growth. But my dad really came a long ways from his beginnings on the farm, right? Totally dirt poor. And then he became a professor, and he grew financially, financial health. He grew intellectual, emotional health. He grew social health. He grew, you know, what's the other one? Financial health. He grew those 4 areas of health. And likewise in my life, I've come so far from where I was in my 20s. And I think I've mentioned this earlier in the course, but when I was young, I survived a traumatic event. It left me with PTSD, depression, and anxiety. And I had to work my way through that. And part of that was like, okay, I need to get my emotional health on point. I need to get back to a place where I don't have that depression. I don't have that anxiety, right? And you know, release that fear of being attacked by other people. And that required me to go to a therapist. I had to seek out a therapist, like what I need to do to get that area on point in my life, to grow my health in that emotional, intellectual, mental area, right? Where I had more happiness in my life. How do I get out of that depression, that anxiety, right? Self-criticism, and also fear of being attacked by others. And part of releasing all that and progressing in that area was to go see a therapist. So when you have that framework of the 4 areas of health, this is the main takeaway here. You could focus on each of those areas, and you should think about for yourself, what is going to be your framework for the kind of life you want to build? What is the higher level principle which is guiding all of your decisions and your actions? What is your vision for your life, right? Like, what do you want to accomplish? What do you want to achieve? A vision is like, I want to get to that mountaintop, right? My vision is I want to have great health in these 4 areas of health. And that high level vision is my guiding compass, which allows me to navigate the ship, which is my life, to a more paradisical, you know, environment and island, right? Where it's more beautiful and it's a wonderful, wonderful place to be. And so that's a high level one. So let me give you some practical examples of that. I really value physical health, and so I prioritize exercising at least 3 times a week. Right now, I'm super stoked with the way things are going with physical health routines. And 4 nights a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm swimming with my kids. And they swim in the kids program, and I swim in the adults program, and 5:45 to 7:15. We jump in the pool. I swim 2,100 yards is my basic workout, sometimes more. Last night was 50 yards less, but that's what I swim. And we do that 4 nights a week, and it's amazing just to be able to have physical health. Another part of physical health is sleep. Sleep is super important. And it's important to your overall, the gestalt of your being, the overall health of yourself. You have to have great sleep, but it's also super important to learning. And so when you sleep, if you're sleep deprived, your short-term memory stops working. So you can't learn things during that day. You forget stuff, right? So if you're sleep deprived, you don't have short-term memory. And so to be able to learn things during a day, you have to be rested. You have to have gotten your sleep the night before. And then to take things from short-term memory and to put them into long-term memory, you need to sleep that night, because when you sleep, you take things from short-term memory, the mind does, and puts it into long-term memory. And so you need good sleep the night before you learn something, and you need good sleep the night after you've learned something, so that you could then take that stuff from short-term memory and put it into long-term memories. And that's just like one area, right? That's just like how one way sleep is relevant to learning really well. And so getting your exercise and getting your sleep, hugely important, and everything works better. So your mind is going to work better if you've gotten your exercise and if you've gotten your sleep and if you're taking care of your physical health. And so here's another area just to illustrate physical health, right? So physical health, I also think about, what am I putting in my body? What am I eating? And so learning about what is nutritious and what is not nutritious, following people on YouTube who talk about, following people with PhDs in nutrition on YouTube who talk about this kind of stuff, and listening to podcasts about it, and listening to Audible books about it, right? Like growing my intellectual, mental, knowledge about what is good to put into my body, what is good to eat. Like that's another way I take care of my health and also grow my knowledge, right? Because you'll be successful in life because of what you know, who you know, and mindset. And so this is like part of me growing what I know, is exposing myself to what's healthy to eat. And so when I go grocery shopping, I'm consciously like, okay, let me buy things that were around 100 years ago. That's like one rule that you could use. Like, hey, if this was around 100 years ago, it's going to be better for you than these highly processed foods, that have come out of mass production and have names of things and ingredients that I can't pronounce. But an apple's been around a long time. It was around over 100 years ago. Oranges, bananas, kale, broccoli, tomatoes, right? And so learning this stuff and learning which oils are good for you. Olive oil, wonderful. If you get the right olive oil, you have to, Costco sells a really good olive oil. But olive oil is a great oil for you. So you can learn about all this stuff. But this is an example of how having these higher level principles, the 4 areas of health, physical, financial, intellectual, mental, emotional, and then also social, having those 4 areas of health are the guiding principle. And then you could start to apply that in your life. So physical health, I'm swimming, I'm getting my sleep, I'm going to the grocery store and I'm buying things that were around 100 years ago. I'm getting that in my fridge when I get home. Like this morning when I packed up my lunch, I grabbed a carrot, I grabbed a yellow bell pepper, I grabbed an apple. I had a smoothie this morning, and in the smoothie I put an orange into it, and I put a little bit of this mushroom protein powder from OM, that they sell at Whole Foods, and some, some chia seeds and some frozen strawberries and that kind of stuff into the smoothie, a little orange juice and a little bit of water, and blended it all up. I had that smoothie this morning. And, and so just choosing things, making decisions that compound and build on each other. So from this guiding principle, this is my vision. And then with your vision, you could implement your strategy and your tactics, right? So the strategy is okay, exercise 4 times a week, maintain physical health. Here's what I'm going to do. And then the tactics are how you implement that. Exercise, sleep, and buying good things at the grocery store and then eating them out of the fridge. So those are the ways that you can start to build success routines and habits, like brushing your teeth when you get up, floss and brush before you go to bed. That's ingrained in my mind. And I'm always surprised when I go to the dentist, if the dentist, often, several times, many different times, the dentist has remarked to me, wow, you have really great hygiene. Your teeth are really clean. Do you floss every day? I do. Wow, your teeth are doing great. And I'm kind of surprised by inference, I guess, not everybody flosses every day. I'm like, really? People don't floss every day? So you really want to start to build those habits. This is just what I do. So we talked about physical health quite a bit. I want to talk a little bit about, the mental, intellectual, emotional. And so one of the ways that I grow what I know is when I am driving somewhere, I'll use that time to either take care of my social health or also to take care of my intellectual knowledge, growing what I know health. And so I'll either call somebody, like today I called a friend and we chatted for 25 minutes while I was driving back from the college campus. And then also, when I've been driving, I'll listen to a podcast, or I don't know where my mind was going. I was thinking about something else. I'll listen to a podcast, or I'll listen to an Audible book. And right now the Audible book that I'm listening to is Influence, Science and Practice by Robert Chiod, whatever his last name is. It's a really interesting book, just about the psychology of our minds and how we have certain just innate reactive behaviors that when a certain kind of situation occurs, such as the reciprocity principle, we just naturally feel the instinct and the impulse within us to reciprocate. If somebody does something for us or gives us something, we feel that impulse to do something for them. And that's just a normal way the human mind operates. And so I'm listening to that book because, consumer psychology and business and, increasing my financial health is all something I'm very interested in. And so that plays into that. So these are the ways that you start to build habits, and those are building skillful habits. And if you have unskillful habits, and they're very detrimental to your life, so maybe you're struggling with some sort of a substance or something like that, you definitely want to seek professional help to help figure out, how do I get rid of this unskillful habit in my life? If you have an unskillful habit and it isn't, like wrecking your life, but it's just kind of unskillful, like every now and then you eat too much ice cream, or every now and then you spend too much time, scrolling and TikToking or whatever, then you just need to sort of evaluate, like, is this enough that I need to call in outside external help, like a psychologist or a therapist, to help me kind of figure out how to get rid of this unskillful habit? Or is this an unskillful habit where I have like a little bit of a vice and, sometimes I see a little too much ice cream, but I'm getting my exercise, so it's all okay. Or sometimes, man, like once every 10 days or 2 weeks, I just for 2 hours, I just got like zone out and like scroll TikTok or something. Like, if it's not too detrimental in your life, you can just say, hey, that's my vice, whatever. Because we're all human, none of us are perfect. And so we have to have a little bit of leeway and grace with ourselves. Nothing in nature is really like, super linear or optimized for like going in an exact straight line. Nature is really about growth and curves, and that's true in all of nature, winding, finding its way. And that's true in our lives. It's a recipe for frustration and self-loathing. If you expect to just be like some machine that's moving forward with consistent, persistent progress in a linear fashion versus like a little meander, and sometimes you're falling a little short, but then you bring yourself back on point. Like you're kind of like guiding your way to a more skillful life, by tacking back and forth and readjusting your course as you go, as opposed to being this machine on a linear path with optimal efficiency. So have a little grace with yourself and a little bit of kindness, and evaluate any of those unskillful habits to see if you need to bring in outside help to get rid of the unskillful habit if it's really detrimental to your life. And if you do need to bring in that outside help, bring it in, because that's what you're put here to do, is to become more skillful, to learn and to grow. And so like if you need it, bring it in. But if it's like an unskillful habit that's like not too detrimental in your life, doesn't really upset your life too much, just like take a breath and, do your best to kind of like not engage in that unskillful habit too much. But that's how you could start to get rid of unskillful habits. And then also just focus on what you do want to build, and the trade-off between wasting your time doing this thing versus putting your time, investing your time into something that's really going to move you forward. And ask yourself, what do you really want there, McLeod? What do you want? What choice are you going to make, And so you could save like the unskillful thing, scroll on TikTok, eating ice cream, to some little thing you indulge in every now and then. You could be like, what, I worked hard for 10 days. Tonight's my night. I'm eating ice cream and I'm scrolling TikTok. Like whatever, like that's the night. It's chill night, and give yourself a little bit of leeway, a little bit of grace as you guide yourself towards a more skillful life. All right, so there's some good stuff here. I like this phrase, watch your thoughts for they become your words. Watch your words for they become your actions. Watch your actions for they become your habits. Watch your habits for they become your character. Watch your character for it becomes your destiny. Love that phrase. And routines are super important. I talked about different routines, brushing teeth, my exercise habits, the choices I make for eating, how I buy things at the grocery store, with my wife. My wife does most of the shopping actually. And our family, I do the part where I work and earn the money, and then she runs the household. That's how we set it up. Works for us. And so success isn't built in one big moment. It's built in the small choices you make every single day. That's good. I like that one. I think I'll highlight that. It's worth highlighting. And then what else here? Routine, rituals, routine. And there's this part I said, remember, you're human. Life's an iterative winding path, not a linear, absolutely efficient progression. And I had somebody say to me one time, in direction, I find my direction. Now that's not proper English, but I thought it was a cool phrase, right? In direction, I find my direction, right? So when you're not, when you're indirect, you're finding your direction. You're finding your way to your more skillful life. So be an adventurer and an explorer. Keep guiding your boat towards a true direction and a more skillful life. Yeah, and skillful and healthy life. So we talked about the 4 areas of health and swimming and what I do while I'm driving and my diet and friends and family, I call them when I'm driving, and then meditating. When I was younger, I really wanted to kind of experience what was enlightenment, and meditation is the kind of path that people talk about to experience that. And so I decided that this is my #1 priority. I was a bachelor, and every day I was going to meditate for an hour, and I did that every day for a year. And so if somebody called me up, I'd be like, and they wanted to go out and I hadn't meditated yet, I'd be like, I can't go. I haven't done I got work I got to do. Let's do it Saturday. You want to go Saturday? And so I just made it my #1 priority, and that happened every day to meditate for an hour. So that's another way I kind of made this commitment and just stuck with it and did that for 7 years till our first child was born. So the closing takeaway is habits will shape your destiny more than raw talent. Build systems that make success automatic, and over time you'll achieve more than you thought possible. And so here's a challenge. Pick one new routine this week, like whatever that is, and commit to it for 7 days. Or I'd say commit to it for 30 days, right? Like I'm gonna eat, 2 vegetables and a fruit every day. Commit to that and go to the grocery store, get it in your fridge, make it like you stop at the grocery store every 3 days to get your new vegetables and fruit, and do that and see how it goes. Or I'm gonna get my sleep. Make 2. I'm also going to get 8 hours of sleep every night. I'm going to bed. And when it's like late, and my decision making and and then also my tolerance for, I forget what that's called, but decision making goes down as you get more tired. Your ability to make decisions decreases as you get more tired. So you just make that commitment that I'm not going to scroll on my phone. I'm going to get to bed so I get my sleep. All right, so that is a fair amount. Jumping back in here, 22-minute video. Fair amount about building daily success routines, habits that drive achievement. I hope this is helpful to you. The more you hear these messages, I know some of them are messages we've already heard in the course, but the more you hear them, the more they're getting ingrained in your mind. And I just really want to convey that repetition is the mother of mastery, and practice leads to progress. And the more you do something, the more it sticks. And the more you roll around in something, the more it sticks. And drop by drop, the bucket gets filled. And persistently, patiently, you're bound to succeed. And so just by doing this here, by going through these videos, like you're reinforcing all these concepts by hearing the overlap and hearing them again and again and again for the ones that we've heard multiple times. Like you're growing new neural pathways. And I believe I shared this earlier in the course also, that when I was younger, there was a time where I listened to the same, it's like a 8-hour talk or a 16-hour talk on like 8 cassette tapes back in the cassette tape days. I'd listen to it when I was driving around, and I listened to it for 2 years over and over and over and over and over, because I just really wanted to ingrain those concepts into my mind. And it was all about the psychology of Buddhism, and the Buddhism interpreted from a psychological perspective. And I just found it so profound and so enlightening that I really wanted to just embed that material inside my mind and have it become part of me. So I just listened to it over and over and over. And so that's part of what we're doing here, just by, some of the stuff overlaps and you've heard it previously, but you're really reinforcing all this material, and repetition is going to help you master it. All right, that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next video, where we're going to talk about social engagement and how you could grow that social health area on your college or university campus.